or you could send it to me and it will be considered anonymous. Send it on the direct chat, I mean. And if when you're asking question, if you could address it to one of the panelists in particular would be better. Or of course, you are free to even ask on a general level. Yeah. So any questions from the talks that you heard? Anyone? Please go ahead. Anybody? uh, these violent crimes take place every other day in our country, and as as a panelist also mentioned, like not every crime is reported, so this is there, and it can be hell for anybody who's going through that. Yeah. Anybody has any questions? Have you experienced something? Do you know somebody who's going through that? Or if you'd like to help such people, how would you? Are there any doubts you want to clear? Please go ahead. Anyone? Yeah. So I think Dr. Jamila, it would be. I mean, I would like to ask you this question. So a lot of young people get into casual relationships in colleges, and often the relationship is very public. Everybody knows about it, and then probably as they grow, one of the partner begins to realize that this person is not meant for me and all of that, and it is at that time that they want to get out of that relationship, but the other person is afraid. I mean, or the other person is not ready to let go, or there is this whole thing about humiliation that's there. So, what would be a healthy way of exiting that relationship, where the person who's wanting to exit doesn't have to take responsibility of that person, and at the same time, it's fair and square? So, is there any kind of advice you would like to give young people about that?
Okay. I think in these cases, prevention is better than cure. Okay.
Right.
That's the first thing we have to say.
Correct.
Because as I said, if a person has this kind of insecurity, jealousy, entitlement, toxic ideas about violence and, entitlement, male entitlement, whatever it is, or if they have a clear-cut mental disorder, which manifests as this kind of delusional, possessive, paranoid love, then there's very little chance that you can get out of it, exit it without exciting one of those feelings, either paranoia or jealousy or entitlement. Or this is the problem, no? That when they get into these relationships very young people know their frontal cortexes are not yet completely developed. Young people's brains are still developing. Till 25, the prefrontal cortex develops. And that's where you think and examine and make critical judgments. All that comes from your frontal cortex. So if you sort of jump the gun and make romantic attachments before you're able to correctly evaluate somebody, that's when you get into these problems. So seriously, prevention is better than cure here. Because otherwise, if you have this kind of a person, whatever you do, exiting might become a problem. However kind you are about it, however reasonable you are about it, however much you sort of explain, probably the best way, if we are pushed to say what is the best way to exit, the best way to exit may be to take the blame on yourself right from the start and say that, look, I am not able to handle this, or I need to. Maybe that would help if you are very clear that it is my problem, it is not your problem, you are fine, but I am not ready for a relationship or whatever. And then make sure that you're not telling any lies here, because if you immediately jump into another relationship, that's again going to excite that same. So yeah, it becomes very difficult. Sometimes it's not easy to prevent this from happening if there's a person who's already vulnerable to that kind of thoughts.
Right, right. And should it be, is it better that you do it in a public space, or sometimes, like by what I mean is a guard, because uh, sometimes we are not sure how that person might react, or do you need to take a friend along, or how is that, just to uh,
No, I think if you are going to exit from a relationship, you should respect the person enough to do it in a private or semi-private session. It should not be
right, right.
large public. No, that's humiliating and
Okay, for the
difficult.
person. All right, all right. Yeah, yeah. Correct, correct. Yeah, all right. Thank you. Yes. Any other question? Please go ahead to our panelists. Okay, Advocate Beulah, I would like to ask you if, with all the law being definitely inclined towards women, and that's really good, because women need to be empowered to step out. But there is definitely the case of disgrace, and there is this case of you know uh, uh, coming out in the open and talking about it. So when they are following the legal process, is there any does the law make provision to help the women, to make them comfortable, to get the process as easy as possible for them? Is there something like that which is done, or it becomes a lengthy process? It becomes every time they have to come in face to face with the accuser who's thrown acid on them or has tried to assault them. Is there any kind of sensitivity that is now come into the legal system to help women go through that process in an easier way? Yeah. You're on mute, I think. I'm sorry, you're on mute. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
please.
So, yeah, it's a good question, but the fact remains that, there's so many cases, and those certain cases are fast-tracked, like Sessions cases, like murder and such cases, or which have really hit the limelight and all that. But there's so many other cases that are where an FIR is registered and lodged at the court, but it takes such a long time. The process is not safe and smooth for anyone, the judicial process, because there are I mean to prove the victim wrong, there could be unpleasant questions being put, and though you have that provision of in camera if there is really a bad incident, you still have, but still victims feel really, really very awkward, and it's not something nice. So many that's exactly why they don't come out in the open and report. And because now, and especially now, it's lots are happening because of these, they indulge in what they do, which is not right. These young minds, immature young minds, they indulge, and then they take pictures and take videos. Later on, at the right moment, that's all out, and then they've suffered so much of unpleasantness and shame and humility and guilt. They just don't want to come out in the open, and even if they come, because of because of very uncomfortable questions put to them, they just don't want to face. They just want to withdraw. That's why conviction rate is so less. But this is happening day in and day out. These kind of incidents are happening. But the judicial process is not smooth. It takes a lot of time. The witnesses don't turn up. Then later on there's not enough material to convict the accused. So it's such a long drawn process.
Yeah.
It takes not less than anything more than 2 years to 6 years, 7 years, which is a long time. And sometimes you forget what happened also after such a long period.
Right.
They're not able to, so they could, not be very, very. There could not be any clarity in the witness statement also. They could be inconsistent. So all this is difficult. So it is not a smooth process.
Yeah. And is there any provision made by the legal system for in terms of the legal fees or providing a counsel? All that is done when they are the victims.
No, it's the state. The public prosecutor appears for the complainant, right? He appears for the complaint. It's only the defense who have to pay, and also usually they don't have to. pay. The state appears for them. That's the public
All right,
prosecutor.
that's a provision. Okay, thank you very much for your comment here. Okay, yeah, yeah. Dr. Pratik, there is, as you mentioned that earlier, that there is a lot of cases don't get reported, lot of offences don't get reported. When young girls go through stalking, and so in this scenario where there is public disgrace also there, how and the police legal system can sometimes be insensitive, or they can sometimes create, or sometimes the public impression could be that way, that the police, the who wants to go to the police station, and and so often there are, I think there are families who try to sometimes even send the girl off to their native place, or sometimes they do something, stuff like that, they shift their residence as well for a few days. So what is the police doing to build or restore faith in terms of community relations? Like how are they trying to restore trust for such people, or just a community in general, to come to the police station and talk about their grievances that they're going through, especially young people, if there is any way to build relations with them? Is there something like that happening?
Yeah, all my career, I started an initiative which many people know about, called Friends of Police.
Okay.
So the very perpetrator, if he becomes a friend of police, he gets a sense of responsibility. And that sense of responsibility will keep him, from committing such thing and try to instead prevent it. So they become part of the problem solving mechanism rather than a problem creating agent. So Friends of Police continue to work under me as an NGO all over the state, and they act as a bridge between police and people. There are people like you and anyone else in this discussion, and so every citizen is actually a policeman in civis who is not paid, and every policeman is a citizen in uniform who is paid for his services. So once we understand this, it behooves everyone to partner in policing. So the victims, the parents, the family, the larger community should work together to isolate this crimogenic element in society, which is only less than 1%. So out of 100 youngsters, you'll find one fellow has this deviant tendency. But if you get 99 to be partners, even that one fellow will realize that, he has no chances. So he will reform, he will modify. So this problem-solving partnership is basically community policing. And this idea is spread to all parts of the world now. And so you cannot increase the number of policemen to provide one policeman for every woman in the country or every home. But you can empower every citizen to act like, a very well-meaning policeman. So that is the concept.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Okay, friends, we are coming to the close of the session now. We want to close at 10:30 p.m. Anybody has any question, any pressing question to ask? Yeah? Anyone? Okay. Okay, I think with that we will close. So thank you so much, Dr. Pradeep and Advocate Beulah and Dr. Jamila Koshi for joining with us this evening, and really speaking on this very important topic. We hope that this recording and the thoughts shared here, the information shared here, will be a blessing, will be a help for all those who see it online. Thank you so much. God bless everyone. See you all. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.